we got to just make sure we're live on LinkedIn. I think we are. Let's see.
And we are, yep, we are live.
We are live. And the technology works again for now. Hey, listen, we're continuing our streak of successful LinkedIn Innovation Hours. Laura, thank you very much. And we have a very special guest with us today, Susan Winkler. Susan, can you tell people, first of all, who are you and what do you do?
Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Winkler. I'm the Executive Director of Connecticut Insurance and Financial Services. We are an initiative of the Metro Hartford Alliance, which is the region's economic development leader here in the Hartford region of Connecticut. And Connecticut IFS represents 32 insurance and financial services companies. So we are their voice and a way of promoting what is a strong industry for Connecticut and growing that industry in many, many different ways.
Hey, well, thanks. And, again, what are we trying to do here? We're really trying to keep the Hartford sort of insurance ecosystem connected, not only in our city, but with people around the globe. And speaking around the globe, we had this, Susan. We had this great trip planned to take Hartford to London. We were there last year, and we just thought, look, we got to crank this up. Do you want to tell people about kind of what our plans were as of January?
Sure. Well, both you and I, Paul, were invited to speak. On behalf of the insurance capital of the United States. They know London and those that organized the InsurTech Insights conference, and a shout out to them because it was going to be an amazing gathering of InsurTechs and insurers and service providers that are really leading the charge on InsurTech for the world. But we were invited to speak, and there's so much. The conversation continues on InsurTech, and now I think there's a different, maybe a different angle on some of those technologies, and perhaps a bigger thrust to get things done even quicker, based on the crisis that we're in right now in the worldwide pandemic. So I think thank you again for, let's say, keeping the conversation going. The insurance capital is ready. They're working hard on solutions, both present, current, and then for the future on managing what is the pandemic right now, but also knowing that this will pass and we will always keep the customers in focus as the priority.
Yeah, well, thanks, and please, if you're watching us, let us know who you are and what you're doing, because we're going to need some help from the audience on this one. Craig Sims, I know you're out there. I see some more people, who are supporters. Just put a comment in so I know you're there, because this actually is going to be very interactive. Because before this, Susan has some really, really good questions, that she was going to ask the panel discussion. So she will throw them out, and Laura and I will do the best we can to answer them until somebody who really knows the answer gets on here and tells us what it should be. So there is
I see Bobby on here as well.
Bobby, yes,
Bobby,
thumbs up. Okay, there's probably, just so everybody knows, there's maybe a minute and a half delay between what we're saying and what comes up. So if I speak very slowly, no, that's why. If I go silent, it's because my house is getting a little antsy after being cooped up for a day. So Susan, tell us how you're going to kick the panel off, and maybe just sort of paint the picture of who would be there and what they were going to, the subjects they were going to cover.
Yeah, we've had the panel was going to be a group of international insurers, and so coming from all different sectors, and I think that InsurTech, as everyone knows, has really reached into each of the health, life, retirement annuities, and property casualty sectors. So some of the questions, the first question that I was going to ask was really an icebreaker, because the panel discussion was based on what is the future technology that's really as far reaching as you can see that could come into play in the insurance industry. So this was a kind of an icebreaker conversation, an icebreaker question and it didn't even have to be based on maybe data. But what did you see as the most far-reaching technology that you've heard about or seen, maybe in a preliminary fashion, that could disrupt the insurance industry in the future?
Okay, well,
So
now, yeah, no, that's a great question. And I'll tell you, the panel of experts is growing. So let me kind of do shout outs. We got Craig, Bobby, Deb Zawiska from Novarica. We've got Emily Fortier from Lockton, Pedro Gastal, who actually is from London, who actually is also participating at the same time at the virtual InsurTech New York conference. So,
right.
Pedro, thanks for doing this, as well as Sylvie from Family Eye, who's working out of Hartford. And I don't know, Sylvie, are you? I bet you're back in the EU, but I presume you're joining us from there. So, Susan, we actually do have a cross-continental panel here.
Great.
So I will lead off the answer. Again, question is most interesting technology, and the first thing I'm going to do is pass it over to Laura. Laura, what's the most interesting technology?
You know, in my opinion here, the most interesting technology, there's a few. So I'm slightly biased being exposed to all of the companies we have in the Reimagine Incubator. But we have some technology that I think is going to disrupt in a positive way. If we look at Benakiva, for example, what they're doing, and if you're not familiar, I would definitely head over to their website. But what they're doing, I think, is going to disrupt in a way that's favorable to the insurer at this point, and obviously in the long run favorable to the customer. And I'm going to give you no further detail because I'm going to have you go to their website to learn more. Paul, I'm going to kick it right back to you.
Okay, that was not a paid message for Bobby. And
it was not. Okay,
so Bobby, you get a pass here. Craig, I definitely expect an opinion here from you. I think technologies are interesting. You always it's easy to focus on the technologies and not the problem. But I think one of the technologies, top of my list is just machine learning. I think it's kind of one of those technologies that it's interesting. It's free, it's open source. There are at least 20,000 different models out there you can download on Pi or Python or R. And but I think Susan, I think that technology, I'm going to call it a technology. I think will disrupt our business for a long, long time. And again, it's not the algorithm, but I think it's, the people who can actually leverage that, find a business problem, plug it in, but more importantly, change how business processes work, because they have to work differently to really take advantage of it. How do you build a model, take it offline, test it? I mean, these are very different types of jobs and very different type of processes. So, no answers yet from the audience. Nope. Okay. So
let me spark some fuel here. It's not really a technology, but I'd love the opinion on maybe some of the callers on what is genome sequencing and typing. Let's think about that for a minute. This is something that can really disrupt the insurance industry on health, life, and property casualty to some degree. I'm curious to see if any of the callers have an opinion on what that particular, let's say, medical advancement, might do to the insurance industry. And I'll
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Bobby actually does. She says after seeing some of the struggles with COVID, I think we just need carriers to catch up. For example, moving to the cloud, having remote access, and I'll say that across the.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, in Utah, and listen, our hearts go out for a couple of carriers whom we both work with and compete with in Utah, Sentinel and Atlantic Coast Life. Not only were they dealing with COVID, but they actually suffered earthquakes right in their home office.
Oh, I know.
So if you want to talk about a double whammy for a carrier. I think we all need to get better at this, and I think we've certainly felt it in our company, and be honest. It's listen, our networks have to catch up, and our technology. I don't know, Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what comes from this situation and how it evolves, but it's almost as though things are advancing in a virtual way. So being able to be connected and having this work remote option in so many different facets, but also I'm curious to see how it humanizes us again. And then what advancements we may make to kind of take care of ourselves on just the most basic levels to kind of bring it forward after this. This is, as somebody said yesterday on a call, David Salinas, it's kind of like World War Z. You know, it's the world has stopped in some ways. It's continuing to move forward like what we're doing today. But I think we're all going to come out of this together differently.
Yeah. So Deb from Navarra makes a really interesting point, which is I think with the current COVID-19, virtual services such as inspections, telemedicine will gain traction for P&C carriers. And Sylvie, if you're on there, love you to jump in and tell us. You're here, I guess, and I see you're still in Hartford, I guess, for the virtual demo day in Hartford, which is a shame, but I think it's great you're progressing. Real curious to get your thoughts on how. And for those of people in the audience, Sylvie has technology that allows elderly people to be observed, monitored for falls, health conditions remotely. So I think Deb, So I think Deb, I have a question for you. If you can answer, I mean, are there any companies or countries that you think are models to look at in terms of adoption for telemedicine that we might follow? Craig Sims says, I think we'll see most of the innovation short term on the operations side because it does not involve underwriting risk. Generally does not disrupt the agency model and avoids agency distribution conflict. The marketing product process innovation will occur when senior management at these companies decide what kind of legacy they want to leave. Good point, Craig. So other thoughts? Jump in. Yeah.
One other thing, and we'll just keep throwing some ideas out there. Maybe we'll get some other comments, either email or text, or maybe we'll hear them. But cybersecurity, another focus area, which I think now, as a result of the COVID, is going to really blossom because there's going to be now more protections needed for all the virtual working, and there might have been some minor or major protocols in place, but now we're all up there working. Even today, as we are working together virtually here, there's new opportunities for cyber and consumer protections, I would imagine.
Well, I would think so because if my mailbox is any any kind of representation of what everybody else is getting, I've gotten more phishing emails in the last 5 days, trying to get into my bank account.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are clearly trying to take advantage of the vulnerability of people and finding those soft spots, which are us people at the end of the day. So Susan, I agree. But then how do you create an environment that's safe when it's distributed and you've got people working from home? Dave.
I think this is going to be a problem. I think that as we talked earlier about the telemedicine, I think there's going to be advancements towards health, and then cyber is something that pops into mind, like we were talking about, on the protections of not only our own personal data, but commercial data. And let's just not talk about the next steps of that, very similar to what happened in the financial crisis earlier in 2008. Then you have regulations that come in.
Yes.
So we haven't even got to that. I mean, we're right now trying to handle a crisis, but ultimately, usually, what happens after is that some strong regulations come in as a result, and that's something that, let's just put that aside. I imagine that would happen.
Yeah, and again, for people who are on, just be patient because there's a little bit of delay when I'm reading your posts and where we are. But Sylvie makes the point that with her product, you can really be there when you're not. Mm-hmm. And we were just sort of talking before, like could you put one of those robots on cameras to drive around? We can have to look at people and have maybe we have a social party that way. We'd all meet up, Susan, and have
that
a
would
big
be amazing.
Happy hour.
So as we're talking here about telemedicine, either my phone is listening to us, and or It's just really coincidental, but my son's pediatrician just texted in with the automatic messaging that they'll soon be adding telemedicine to offer care without leaving your home. So it's a little creepy, but very timely, that I think that it's going to be going that way if it hasn't already. And as David mentioned, India has been a leader in telemedicine, given the nature of the country.
Yeah, Deb, if you have any links to research or articles you could share with us, put it, throw them in the comments, and we'll certainly push them around. Craig says cyber insurance is also going online. Friend works for Beasley on the forefront of the cyber do-it-yourself push.
Yep.
You're right. We were just on yesterday with Dave Salinas. I don't know if I wish this would be a great one for Dave. We'll have to get him on one of these. Who runs the district in New Haven. He put up a post, and tell him, Laura, what he put up. You had the funniest picture.
Yeah, so it was the idea to refer to your children as your coworkers. So the thought process was put up what was going on in your home as we're all learning telecommute. Some of us for the first time, some of us not so much. So I had to refer to my son as my coworker, creepily yanking my socks off during one of these LinkedIn Lives while his hand was coming up and over my shoulder. So I have Paul, we had our group there, Josh Hollander and Charlie Sadosi, and everyone kept a very straight face. I was proud of us, but it just kind of shows, how technology is, dealing with the human element of life as well. So my coworker is not here today.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the other, from an insurance side, so we're working really hard with a couple of our key distributors to help them get agents who are used to working face-to-face to work virtually over an extended period of time. This is not going to be a week. So it's a very interesting process. If I'm used to doing business in a person's house or in bringing them to my office, now I'm doing it on the phone. Okay, that's a whole different set of skills. Let alone do something virtual. How do I light this place? How do I get, what kind of sound do I need? I think we just did a podcast we'll release tomorrow for that annuity show. If we've got any annuity fans out there, please listen and subscribe. But we talk about these challenges. It's interesting from all the way from compliance, to procedures that carriers have got to change. We all sort of think this is going to change, Susan, the way we work in ways that we probably will change, the nature of work for the next 10 years. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think, I think there's a new era here. It's changed the way we work, the way we communicate with each other, and all of the, and then new products. There's no going backwards, because this, and we hope it will pass soon, the pandemic. But there will be something else. So I think that now we have a new way to work, and there's a new way to communicate. There'll be new efficiencies as a result of this. There'll be new products on the market as a result, and it's things that we have not thought of, products that we have not thought of, and like in the cyber realm, or more as you indicated, the telemedicine. That there's going to be new ways of living.
Yeah.
Living.
Well, let's see. Do you want to try one more question with it? We've got a good group of people out here, so
let me see what I'm trying to be relevant to today. How about you mentioned a little about that supply chain. You were working on it, Paul, already. You just talked about your customers,
right?
And maybe there's an intermediate step, and what types of technologies are being built now to reach out, not only to connect with your customers, but to allow them to work. I don't know if anybody on the call or you would like to talk about. Let's talk about that supply chain, how valuable it is, and what we're doing to protect it.
Well, a lot of different directions here we could take this. I know Craig certainly is probably one of the people on LinkedIn. Next, Craig, we got to get you in here. I'll call like this. I think I'll just kind of run through just for let's say annuities, and I'm sure this is very different, as you know, product by product by product. So first challenge number one is, where am I? Okay, now I actually happen to be a licensed insurance agent now. Okay, up until a week ago, I was not in New York. Now I am actually sitting in New York. I could throw a rock at Connecticut. Now, Susan, if I start talking to you about insurance, okay, if I cross the street and I'm on my VPN, I'm on my Wi-Fi, am I doing business in Connecticut or New York? There's some interesting things there. First of all, AML. Okay, how do I know who you are? I mean, I see your picture. We have requirements. It's like, who actually said this? Put the sign up on the wall. I don't know. How do I know who you are? Companies are starting to accept the fact that I've done my customer verification over Skype. I think the second one is, how do I get how do I get things like your ID? Okay, now we've worked with some apps. We've done some really interesting stuff with our mobile app. We're trying to figure out how do we quickly turn this on for agents, where I can tell you, hey, Susan, go to the web, download this app, take a picture, scan your driver's license. We'll suck this up. We're close, but we've got a little bit of ways to go to do that. Things like e-signature. I think we've all made a lot of progress there, but I'll spare some of the issues we're talking through there. Online applications, life insurance, very high utilization of e-apps. Annuities, very, very low. So we're trying to train people online. Wow, you can actually go online and fill this thing out while I'm talking to Laura. So a lot of training in there, a lot of training around how to use the laptop, how to use the microphone. Wow, now my social media profile actually does matter. Maybe we actually provide people with some online coaching on their social media profile. Wow, how about content? We just spun up a bunch of online courses. We're making those available for agents because everybody's cooped up in their house. They can't go to the steakhouse for a webinar. So that's more than you wanted to know. But think about all of those pieces. It's not necessarily new technology in any of those areas. It's just connecting all that stuff from front to back is just like massive. We have to do some massive rewiring here.
And then after it's rewired, I think there's going to be a lot of human rewiring that needs to take place too, because, certain individuals or certain age groups per se may not be as comfortable doing things virtually, either from a security standpoint or just, they don't do business that way. So I think there's going to be a lot of mind shifting that needs to take place as well. And then how do we navigate that? That's still up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm curious, does Craig have any comments on that question about the supply chain?
Imagine this. Yes, he does. He says, Craig says, will COVID allow companies to make lasting change to the agent model? And, I think the answer is definitely yes. Craig, anyway, Craig, you got to work more. You got to give some call after this one.
Yep, he said there are many third-party real-time tools for KYC, ID verification, address verify, but the costs need to be priced in as well. So then it looks at the pricing of the structure too. Yeah,
there's mammoth change taking place here. So we'll talk a little bit, but this is a great chance to ask Susan lots of questions about what's coming, Hartford ecosystem, Metro Hartford Alliance. Ask now, and but we'll talk a little bit more. So Susan, if you kind of look through, maybe just talk for a minute about the goals. Why go to London? Why would Hartford go to London? What are our major goals there as a community?
Well, I think one thing I'd like to also state, Paul, is Connecticut as the insurance capital. We have a long, Nassau Re being one of those insurers. We have a long history of being the leaders in insurance practice. The oldest, insurers are part of the Connecticut landscape, and specifically in Hartford. And we also have a very highly regarded regulator. So our chief regulator, Commissioner Andrew Mace, is highly regarded through the National Association of Insurance Commissioners.